The long-range sensors aboard the Europa Deep Space Station picked up the anomaly on a quiet Thursday morning in 2157. Dr. Sarah Chen had been reviewing routine stellar data when the alert flashed across her holographic display. A massive gravitational disturbance approaching from the direction of the Carina Nebula. At first, she assumed it was an error in the detection systems. But as confirmation signals poured in from stations across the solar system, the truth became undeniable. Humanity was about to have its first contact with an advanced alien civilization. The approaching force was vast, a fleet of ships so numerous they created their own gravitational field. Initial estimates suggested thousands of vessels, each larger than anything humanity had ever constructed. They moved in perfect formation, like a river of stars flowing through space, and they were headed directly for Earth's solar system. Within hours, the United Earth Defense Council convened an emergency session. Admiral James Rodriguez, a veteran of the Mars colonial wars, stood before the assembled leaders in Geneva. His weathered face reflected the gravity of the situation as holographic projections of the approaching fleet filled the chamber. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice steady despite the tension, "what we're witnessing is unprecedented. This fleet's technological signature suggests capabilities far beyond our current understanding. They're moving at speeds we previously thought impossible, using drive systems we can barely comprehend." The council chamber erupted in worried murmurs, but Rodriguez raised his hand for silence. "However, there's something else you need to see." He gestured, and the holographic display shifted, showing energy readings from the fleet. "Their power systems are strained. These ships are carrying far more than their design capacity. This isn't an invasion force, it's a migration." Dr. Elena Volkov, Earth's premier xenoanthropologist, stepped forward. Her decades of theoretical work on potential alien civilizations was suddenly, dramatically relevant. "Admiral Rodriguez is correct. The pattern matches what we might expect from a species facing catastrophic displacement. They're running from something." The first transmission arrived 3 days later. The message came in multiple formats, suggesting an advanced understanding of communication theory. After several hours of processing, the AI translation matrices decoded its contents. The message was both simple and shocking. "We are the collective of the thousand suns. Our civilization faces extinction from the approaching wave. We require passage through your star system. Resistance is inadvisable. We will arrive in 30 standard days." President Maya Jackson, the recently elected leader of the United Earth government, stood in her office overlooking the rebuilt skyline of New Washington. The morning sun cast long shadows across the quantum steel and carbon fiber structures, monuments to humanity's recovery from the climate wars of the previous century. "They're not asking," she said to her assembled advisors. "They're telling." Defense Minister Chen Wei nodded grimly. "The gravitational wake from their fleet alone could destabilize our outer planet's orbits. If they pass through the solar system at their current velocity, the damage to our planetary infrastructure could be catastrophic." "And if we refuse?" President Jackson asked, though she already suspected the answer. Admiral Rodriguez's hologram flickered as he responded from Lunar Command. "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours, Madam President. In a direct confrontation, we would lose," Jackson finished. "But that's not the question I asked, Admiral. I asked what happens if we refuse." The room fell silent. It was Dr. Volkov who finally spoke up, her voice carrying the weight of understanding. "They're desperate, Madam President. History shows us that desperate civilizations are capable of anything. If we refuse, they might not have the luxury of caring about our survival." President Jackson turned to face the window again, watching as morning traffic wove between the buildings in perfectly coordinated streams. Humanity had fought its way back from the brink of self-destruction. They had unified their governments, healed their planet, and taken their first steps into space. They had done it through innovation, determination, and an unwavering spirit of survival. "Get me the heads of our quantum research divisions," she said finally. and contact the Titan Deep Space Labs. It's time to activate the Guardian Protocol. Madam President, Minister Chen interjected, the Guardian Protocol is still theoretical. We haven't even completed the initial tests. Then we'll test it against the real thing, Jackson replied, her voice hardening with resolve. Humanity didn't come this far to be swept aside by the first crisis that came from the stars. Begin the preparations. We have 30 days to do what we do best: innovate, adapt, and overcome. As her orders were relayed across the solar system, automated factories on Mercury spun to life, quantum forges on Mars began to pulse with energy, and deep within the ice caves of Europa, something ancient and powerful started to wake. Humanity had built its defenses in secret, preparing for a day they hoped would never come. That day had arrived. In the dark reaches of the Kuiper Belt, automated probes tracked the approaching fleet. Their numbers were beyond anything initially estimated, not thousands of ships, but tens of thousands. They moved like a swarm of locusts through space, their combined mass creating ripples in the fabric of reality itself. Humanity had 30 days to prepare for an ultimatum they couldn't accept and a confrontation they couldn't avoid. The next month would determine not just the fate of Earth, but humanity's place in a universe that had suddenly become much larger and more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Dr. Chen, still at her post on Europa, watched the sensor readings with a mixture of fear and fascination. The patterns in the data were becoming clearer. The alien fleet wasn't just massive, it was damaged. Whatever they were running from had already caught up with them once. What could be so terrible? She whispered to herself that it would drive an entire civilization to such desperate measures. As if in answer, her sensors picked up something else, something far beyond the approaching fleet. A darkness in space where stars should be. The wave they had mentioned in their message was real, and it was following them. 26 days remained before the collective would reach Earth's solar system, and humanity's response was unlike anything the universe had ever seen. Deep beneath the Himalayan mountains, in a facility known as the Nexus, President Jackson stood before a holographic representation of humanity's most ambitious project. Project Lighthouse is ready for activation, Madam President, announced Dr. Samira Patel, the quantum mechanics prodigy who had revolutionized humanity's understanding of spacetime. Her dark eyes gleamed with pride as she manipulated the hologram, revealing a network of satellites that would soon encircle the solar system. But these weren't ordinary satellites. Each one contained a quantum core that could manipulate the very fabric of spacetime. The technology was experimental, dangerous, and exactly what humanity needed to face an overwhelming force. "Explain it to me again," Jackson requested, watching as simulated energy patterns danced between the satellites. "In terms our guests will understand." Patel smiled. "Think of space as a highway. The collected ships need a smooth road to travel at their current velocity. What we're going to do is create our own traffic system. We're not building walls. We're changing the rules of movement itself." Admiral Rodriguez, present via hologram from Lunar Command, crossed his arms. "And you're certain they won't be able to simply push through?" "That's the beauty of it," Patel responded. "The more energy they expend trying to force their way through, the stronger the quantum barrier becomes. It's like trying to swim upstream in a river that gets faster the harder you swim." The second message from the collective arrived that evening, more urgent than the first. Their ships had detected the activation of the Lighthouse network. Their tone had shifted from commanding to confused, then to something approaching respect. "Your species possesses knowledge we did not anticipate. However, you cannot comprehend the nature of what pursues us. The wave consumes all. We estimate it will reach your system within 1 standard solar year if our passage is delayed. Cooperation ensures mutual survival." In orbit around Mars, Commander David Okoro supervised the final preparations of humanity's secondary defense system. The quantum forges had been running at maximum capacity for weeks, producing what appeared to be simple defensive platforms. But like everything else humanity had built since the climate wars, appearances were deceiving. Status report. he commanded, watching as another platform took its position in the growing constellation around Mars. All systems nominal, Commander, his AI assistant reported. The swarm is at 70% capacity and rising. Estimated completion time, 48 hours. The swarm was humanity's answer to being outnumbered. Millions of microsatellites, each no larger than a human hand, but together forming a defensive network that could adapt and reconfigure itself faster than any traditional fleet could respond. Meanwhile, on Titan, Dr. Elena Volkov had made a breakthrough in understanding their visitors. She stood before an emergency session of the Defense Council, her hologram flickering slightly due to the distance. "The collective isn't just a name, it's a literal description," she explained. "Their ships contain not one species, but hundreds. They've merged their civilizations out of necessity, fleeing together from the wave. But this also means they're vulnerable in ways we hadn't considered." "Explain," President Jackson prompted. "Their unity is their strength, but also their weakness. They can't separate their fleet without risking the collapse of their entire social structure. They must move as one, which means they must commit to whatever course of action they choose completely." In the Kuiper Belt, humanity's deep space sensors continued to track both the approaching collective and the distant darkness that pursued them. Dr. Chen's team had managed to gather more data about the mysterious wave, and the results were troubling. "It's not just destroying systems," she reported to the Council. "It's erasing them. Quantum-level destruction. Nothing we've ever encountered should be capable of this." President Jackson absorbed this information in silence. Humanity faced an impossible choice: stand firm against the collective and risk eventual destruction by the wave, or allow their passage and face certain devastation of their solar system. But humanity had faced impossible choices before. The climate wars had nearly ended their civilization. The Mars colonial wars had threatened to tear their unity apart. Each time, they had emerged stronger, more innovative, and more determined. "Send a message to the collective," Jackson commanded. "Tell them we understand their plight, but their passage through our system would destroy everything we've built. However, we offer an alternative." She nodded to Dr. Patel, who stepped forward to explain humanity's most audacious plan yet. "We can't let them through our system," Patel began, "but we can help them go around it. The Lighthouse network isn't just a defense system. It's the largest quantum tunneling experiment ever attempted. If they're willing to trust us, we might be able to create a shortcut through space-time itself." The plan was dangerous, untested, and might kill them all. But it was also exactly the kind of impossible solution that humanity specialized in. As the message was transmitted to the approaching fleet, activity throughout the solar system reached a fever pitch. The swarm around Mars achieved full deployment, its millions of components moving in perfect synchronization. On Europa, deep beneath the ice, ancient machines built by humanity's first wave of space exploration hummed to life, their purpose finally clear. They had 5 days left before the collective reached their outer defensive line. 5 days to either convince them to attempt the impossible or prepare for a battle that would determine the fate of 2 civilizations. And somewhere in the distant darkness of space, the wave continued its relentless advance, devouring everything in its path. The collective's response came swiftly, and was not what humanity had hoped for. Their massive fleet split into 2 formations, the larger group maintaining its direct course toward Earth, while a smaller contingent of warships accelerated ahead of the main body. "They're testing us," Admiral Rodriguez announced from the bridge of the UES Artemis, humanity's most advanced warship. A vessel hung in space at the edge of the Kuiper Belt, surrounded by the quantum defense network. "They don't believe our technology is real." President Jackson's hologram flickered in the ship's command center. "Then we'll have to show them. But remember, minimum casualties. These aren't our enemies, just desperate survivors making poor choices." The first wave of collective warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel exactly where Dr. Patel had predicted. The quantum sensors had mapped their most likely approach vectors with perfect accuracy. What the collective didn't know was that they had just entered humanity's most sophisticated trap. Commander Sarah Chen, now aboard the Artemis as Chief Science Officer, watched her displays with intense concentration. Quantum field is stable. They're trying to analyze the barrier. Wait, energy spike. They're attempting to breach. The lead ships of the collective fired what appeared to be conventional energy weapons at the quantum barrier. Instead of impacting or dispersing, the energy was absorbed, causing the barrier to shimmer with increased intensity. The more power they poured into their assault, the stronger the defensive field became. "That's impossible," came the transmission from the collective flagship. The message originated from a being identifying itself as High Commander Zextal. "Your civilization is too young to possess this level of quantum manipulation." Admiral Rodriguez allowed himself a small smile. "We had good teachers. Ourselves. Humanity has spent centuries fighting against extinction. We learned to think differently." The swarm chose that moment to make its presence known. Millions of microsatellites emerged from their hidden positions, surrounding the collective warships in a dazzling display of coordination. Each tiny unit contained a fraction of the power of the quantum barrier technology, but together they formed a web of energy that could reshape local spacetime. "This is your final warning," Rodriguez broadcast. "Accept our offer of assistance with the quantum tunnel or retreat. Those are your only options." Instead of responding, the collective warships launched what appeared to be autonomous combat drones. Thousands of them, each the size of a small shuttle, streamed toward the human defenses. But humanity had prepared for this too. "Execute Protocol Prometheus," Rodriguez commanded. Deep within the Artemis, a quantum AI core pulsed with energy. Unlike traditional artificial intelligence, this system operated on quantum principles, allowing it to coordinate responses across vast distances with no time delay. The swarm responded instantly, restructuring itself into complex geometric patterns that created localized gravity wells. The collective's drones, unable to adjust to the suddenly shifting space around them, found themselves caught in artificial gravity eddies. Those that attempted to power through the distortions only fed more energy into the system, strengthening the effect. "Remarkable," High Commander Zextal transmitted. "Your species has achieved what our collective spent millennia developing, but through an entirely different path." Dr. Volkov, monitoring the exchange from her station on Titan, noted the shift in the alien commander's tone. "They're reassessing us. Their cultural database suggested that younger species should be technologically inferior. We're forcing them to confront their own prejudices." But the battle was far from over. The main body of the collective fleet was still approaching, and long-range sensors showed they were preparing something massive. Energy readings from their ships were climbing to levels that defied conventional physics. "They're going to try to tear a hole through space-time," Dr. Patil announced, her voice tense. "They think they can brute force their way through our defenses by literally breaking the local laws of physics." President Jackson's response was immediate. "Activate the Europa Protocol. All ships, fall back to secondary positions." Deep beneath Europa's icy surface, ancient machines that humanity had placed there decades ago began to awaken fully. These weren't weapons in the conventional sense. They were something far more sophisticated. Humanity had discovered something in Europa's oceans years ago, something they had kept secret from the rest of the galaxy. They had found a way to stabilize space-time itself. As the collective fleet prepared their desperate gambit, humanity's true defensive capability revealed itself. A wave of quantum stabilization spread out from Europa, reinforcing the very fabric of reality in the solar system. The laws of physics themselves became immutable within the field's influence. "By all that exists," Zextal transmitted, genuine awe in their translated voice. "You've achieved absolute quantum stability." "How?" "The same way we achieved everything else," Rodriguez replied. "We looked at the problem differently. Now shall we discuss our original proposal? Because that wave of yours isn't slowing down, and we genuinely want to help." The collective warships hung in space, their weapons powered down, caught between their desperate need to survive and the realization that they had severely underestimated humanity's capabilities. Behind them, their main fleet had slowed its approach, clearly reconsidering their options. But time was running out. The distant darkness that pursued them had grown larger in the long-range sensors. The wave was accelerating, as if drawn to the concentration of quantum manipulation occurring in the solar system. Humanity had won the first battle, but the true test still lay ahead. They had proven they could stand against the collective. Now they needed to prove they could save them. In the aftermath of the confrontation at the solar system's edge, humanity revealed its most closely guarded secret. Within a secure chamber beneath Europa's ice, President Jackson stood with High Commander Zextal, their environmental suits illuminated by the soft blue glow of ancient machinery. "What you're seeing," Jackson explained, her voice filled with quiet pride, "is the reason we couldn't let your fleet pass through our system. This facility isn't just a defense system. It's holding reality itself together." Zextal moved closer to the massive quantum core that pulsed with otherworldly energy. The alien leader's environmental suit, necessary for their silicon-based biology, reflected the ethereal light. These patterns, they're identical to the wave's quantum signature, but inverted. Dr. Patel stepped forward, her hologram joining them in the chamber. "Exactly. 30 years ago, we detected the first traces of the wave approaching from the galactic core. We knew it would take centuries to reach us, but we also knew no conventional defense would stop it. So we started thinking differently." The machinery around them hummed with power, its quantum fields maintaining a perfect bubble of stable space-time that extended throughout the solar system. This was humanity's true achievement, not just understanding the nature of reality, but learning to protect it. "The wave isn't a natural phenomenon," Chen added from her station aboard the Artemis. "It's the result of accumulated quantum instability from thousands of civilizations manipulating space-time without understanding the consequences. Every faster-than-light jump, every artificial wormhole, every quantum experiment created microscopic tears in reality. Over millions of years, those tears began to combine and grow." Zextal's translated voice carried a note of dawning horror. "Our evacuation, our use of mass quantum tunneling to move our entire civilization. We've been making it stronger." "Yes," Jackson confirmed, "but that's also why we couldn't let you pass through our system. Your fleet's quantum wake would have disrupted our stabilization field. Everything we've built to stop the wave would have collapsed." In orbit above Europa, the Artemis sensors detected a significant change in the approaching wave. It had accelerated again, as if drawn to the concentration of quantum energy in the solar system. They had less time than they'd thought. Admiral Rodriguez's voice came through the command channel. "Madam President, the wave will reach the outer system in less than 72 hours. We need to begin final preparations." The Guardian Protocol wasn't just a defensive system. It was humanity's answer to the wave itself. The quantum stabilization field could be expanded, transformed from a shield into a repair mechanism for the damaged fabric of space-time. But the power requirements were enormous, and the risks even greater. "If we proceed," Dr. Patel explained to the assembled human and collective leaders, "we'll need to channel the energy of an entire star. The quantum backlash could tear our system apart if we miscalculate even slightly." The collective scientific council, now in full communication with Earth scientists, had been reviewing the data. Their conclusion was unanimous. Humanity's plan was theoretically sound, but practically insane. The level of precision required to manipulate quantum fields on such a scale should have been impossible. But humanity had spent decades preparing for exactly this moment. The swarm around Mars began to reconfigure itself, forming vast arrays of quantum amplifiers. The Lighthouse network shifted its focus from defense to power collection, ready to channel the sun's energy into the largest quantum engineering project ever attempted. "There's something else you should know," Jackson said to Zextal as they returned to the Artemis. "We didn't develop this technology alone. We had help from them." The ship's main screen activated, showing a deep space transmission that humanity had received 15 years earlier. The message was simple, sent by a civilization that had faced the wave and found a different solution. They had uploaded their entire species into quantum storage, preserving themselves in a state of pure information. Before entering their final sleep, they had transmitted their knowledge to thousands of younger civilizations, hoping that one would find a way to succeed where they had failed. We were the only ones who approached the problem differently, Paddle explained. Everyone else tried to run or hide or transcend. We decided to stand and fight. The collective fleet, now fully integrated into Earth's defense network, began moving into position. Their ships, guided by the quantum AI, formed precise geometric patterns that would help channel and stabilize the massive energies they would soon unleash. In the Europa facility, the ancient machines began their final startup sequence. The quantum core's glow intensified, and patterns of energy danced across its surface like living mathematics. Humanity was about to attempt something that had never been done before, not just stopping the wave, but healing the damaged fabric of space-time itself. They had 48 hours to prepare, 48 hours to coordinate the most complex engineering feat in human history, 48 hours to prove that sometimes the best way to face an impossible problem was to reimagine the nature of possibility itself. As the countdown began, President Jackson addressed the combined forces of humanity and the collective. We stand together not just to save ourselves, but to heal our galaxy. The wave isn't our enemy, it's a problem to be solved. And solving impossible problems is what humanity does best. The final hours before the wave's arrival transformed the solar system into a vast machine. The combined fleets of humanity and the collective hung in precisely calculated positions, their ships linked by quantum fields into a single vast network. Earth's sun pulsed with unusual patterns as the Lighthouse array began drawing unprecedented amounts of energy from its corona. Aboard the Artemis, Dr. Chen monitored the wave's approach. The quantum distortion is increasing exponentially. Traditional spacetime is completely breaking down at the edge of the Kuiper Belt. President Jackson stood on the bridge, watching as the massive dark void approached their solar system. The wave had grown larger than any projection had predicted, as if responding to the challenge humanity presented. It was no longer just a force of destruction. It had become an entity of its own, formed from the accumulated tears in reality itself. All stations, report status. Admiral Rodriguez commanded, his voice steady despite the tension. Swarm network at full power. Came the response from Mars Command. Quantum resonance patterns locked. Europa core at maximum stability. Dr. Paddle reported from her station deep beneath the icy moon. The ancient machinery is performing beyond our highest expectations. High Commander Zextel's voice joined the chorus from the collective flagship. Our fleet is in position. We still believe this plan is impossible, but we stand ready to assist. The wave's outer edge made first contact with their defensive perimeter. Reality itself seemed to shudder as two opposing forces of quantum manipulation collided. The stabilization field held, but sensors showed it was already operating at maximum capacity. Begin Phase 1, Jackson ordered. The Lighthouse network activated, channeling solar energy through the precisely arranged ships. The swarm's millions of components began to pulse in sequence, creating a cascading wave of quantum stability that rippled outward from Mars. On Europa, the ancient machines reached full power, their quantum core glowing with an intensity that threatened to overwhelm the sensors. But something was wrong. The wave was adapting, its quantum disruption shifting to frequencies they hadn't predicted. It's learning, Chen announced, her fingers flying over her console. The wave isn't just destroying reality. It's evolving. Every defense we throw at it makes it stronger. That's it. Dr. Patel's voice cut through the tension. We've been thinking about this the wrong way again. We're not trying to stop the wave. We need to help it complete its evolution. The quantum AI core aboard the Artemis processed this insight instantly, recalculating their entire approach. The wave wasn't a cancer in reality that needed to be eliminated. It was reality attempting to heal itself in the only way it could. All ships, reconfigure quantum fields. Rodriguez ordered. Don't resist the wave. Synchronize with it. The combined fleet shifted its energy output, no longer trying to create a barrier against the wave. Instead, they matched its quantum frequency, creating a channel for its energy to flow through their network. The wave responded immediately, its destructive power transforming into something else as it encountered a system that worked with it rather than against it. Europa Corps responding. Paddle reported. The ancient machines, they're singing. The quantum harmonics produced by their combined technology created patterns that no one had predicted. The wave's darkness began to shift, colors emerging within its void as reality itself restructured around their collaboration. Look at these readings, Chen breathed. The wave isn't destroying space-time anymore. It's rewriting it, creating new, stable configurations of reality. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity as humanity and the collective worked together to guide this transformation. The wave moved through their solar system, not as a force of destruction, but as a catalyst for change. Where it passed, space-time emerged stronger, more stable, as if reality itself had been reinforced. When it was over, the solar system had changed. The quantum wake left behind by the wave had altered the fundamental structure of local space-time, making it resistant to the kind of damage that had created the wave in the first place. We didn't just save ourselves, Jackson observed, watching the final readings come in. We might have saved the galaxy. The implications were staggering. The wave continued its journey through space, but now it carried with it the combined knowledge and technology of humanity and the collective, transforming damaged regions of space-time instead of destroying them. In the months that followed, the collective chose to make the Sol system their new home, working with humanity to establish colonies throughout their now stable region of space. Together, they began developing ways to share their solution with other civilizations, creating a network of quantum-stabilized safe zones throughout the galaxy. The ancient machines beneath Europa continued their work, their true purpose finally fulfilled. They hadn't just been built to save humanity. They had been designed to help the universe heal itself. President Jackson stood in her office in New Washington, watching the sunset through quantum-stabilized space. The sky held new colors now, subtle changes in reality that reminded everyone of how close they had come to annihilation, and how they had found a solution by thinking differently. We discovered something remarkable, she said to the assembled leaders of both humanity and the collective. The universe doesn't need us to save it. It needs us to understand it, to work with it rather than against it. That's what humanity does best. We don't just solve problems, we redefine them. Above them, the combined fleet of two civilizations prepared for their next mission, sharing their discovery with the galaxy. The wave continued its journey through space, no longer a harbinger of destruction, but a force of renewal, guided by the quantum technologies humanity had developed. They had faced extinction and emerged stronger, not through overwhelming force or superior numbers, but through understanding, innovation, and the uniquely human ability to look at an impossible problem and see a solution no one else had imagined.